Hey, what's up, guys, and welcome to episode 2. Got my honeys, got my bitches, and we gonna do this. If you notice, I can rap, so I should probably do that and leave you guys in the dust so you guys can rot. Ooh, I should be a rapper. All right, guys, so you guys gave your suggestions, and I read most of them. So, we have dabbled a bit with the project. I have changed the drop. I have two people's drops that they sent me. One of them is just a replica of the last one I made, so I took mine's off and added theirs because they added that for last bit format. So we're gonna go from here. Today what we're gonna be focusing on is making the bass sound huge and fat, so then we can move on and progress it in the next episode with some drums and so forth. So right now we have 3 drops you guys can vote from. This is gonna be drop 1. So let me know if you guys like this one. Then I'll play drop 2, and then I'll play drop 3. That's the first drop. I remade that one because I felt like the first one kind of sucked. So kind of sat down and said, okay, let's do this one. So the way this one works is we got a bass on the kick. So when the kick hits, the bass hits. And then we got one on the 1/4, you could kind of say like 1.1.4. And then we got to add some groove this part here where it's like triple notes here on the beat. 1.2, 1.3 and 1.2.4, sort of like a rolling bass there. And then back to this one, and then we have this up doom doom to give it that kind of groovy melodic change of note. So a lot of you guys were saying change the bass up a bit and so forth. And then as you guys can tell, I also changed the patch. Sounds way better now, and I'll show you guys how I made it. All right, now on to drop 2. So that's gonna be drop 2. It's obviously the first drop from the first part, but the guy who sent it to me made that alteration at the end. So that's the second drop you guys can vote on. And finally, the last drop was sent to me as well, and this is it. Okay, so obviously need some work to do quantizing. So that's the third one. If you guys feel like it would sound better once it's quantized, let me know. So now let's get straight into the good stuff. We're gonna try and make the bass sound fat. So far I have 3 layers right now, which are the only layers I'm gonna keep in the bass. And this is how they're gonna look like. So the first layer is obviously the sub we used in the first one from Trillion. You guys can tell here. This is Trillion. We're using this patch, the clicky sub. Now, I changed bass 1 and bass 2, and brought bass 2 back in, and then I'll show you guys. So bass 1 got replaced by Trillion, and pretty much what we did here, it's fairly simple. We went into the patch synth bass, we chose CS80 thin saw bass, and then what we did is we changed this filter, the low pass filter, to I believe it's called a step and smooth, which should be there. It's gonna sound like that. So now what we're gonna do, let's lower the cutoff. And play with the release a bit. That's what it's gonna sound like. And then the second bass is from my new pack called Spire Revolution. And it's from Spire. It has a bit of every kind of sound. It has pretty much the big room progressive house and deep house sound. So we're using the BA comb over bass, which is a really good one. So you guys can tell it has reverb. We are gonna remove that and the delay because we're gonna pretty much bust these and put their own reverb and delay as well. Okay, so now what we're gonna do is try and make these fat. We're gonna separate the sub and the 2 basses because these 2 basses are gonna receive reverb and they're gonna get a little bit widened, and we're gonna go from there. All right, so the first thing I'm going to do is obviously I already have this EQ here, which was meant for the sub and this together. So I'm going to do a low pass because our sub's already taking care of the low frequencies. So there we have it. All right, so there we have that one. So now what I'm going to use is the Waves API 550. There's a 550A and 550B. I'm going to use the 550B. What I like to do on this one is kind of do, well, actually, I'm going to use the 550A. I'm more comfortable using that one. I'm going to take this one off. What I like to do is I like to load up a bass patch already preset, and then I'll start from there. So I believe the bass 2 is the one that gives it a lot of good stuff. Let's see how this sounds like. I think it's bass 1, so we're going to load the other one up. All right, so now what I'm going to do is this one pretty much boosts up at the frequency of 5. As you guys can see, I have the, and then here we have another 1.5, and then here it's at the 50. So what we're going to do is lower these. Obviously, we don't want no low end, so we're going to take that away. And we're going to kind of do the same thing they did, but just, you know, lower it down a bit more. So it's not as drastic. Ooh. It to 10 at the frequency of 10. So the way you change the frequency on this is you have to hold down in the center where it's white, and then that's when you change the frequency that you want it at. So I like the way it's sounding like this, so we're gonna leave it like that for now. So it gives it more strength. All right, so now what we're gonna do is apply a reverb to this, and it's gonna be a very little reverb, but we do that because since it's gonna drop with the bass, if it just drops very dry, it's not as, you know, so we're gonna add a little bit of reverb to kind of give it life. And we're gonna use the Valhalla vintage burr for that, or we can use the room burr as well. It all depends. So we're gonna use the Valhalla vintage burr, and you can replicate this in called Ableton or FL with their own reverb. The only difference is just the way it sounds, obviously. So obviously we're gonna have a very low decay for this. So there we go. It gives it a lot of needed space. All right, now it's sounding like something brighter or Tom Starr would make. All right, so now what we're gonna do is we gotta obviously compress this together, and what I'm gonna do is actually use a camel crush to try and get it more fat, sound fatter, and then we're gonna compress it all together. So we're gonna just clear the preset. Now, if you guys get the camel crusher, that one is free, and it's using the same thing I'm using, because the camel fat gives you all these other parameters that I rarely use. All I really use is the distortion section on the camel fat. So what the distortion section in the camel fat has, it's a tube which is gonna make your sound very loud through tube processing. A bit crusher, which is pretty much, you know, distorting your highs and stuff. And then we have a mech and exciter. Now, I don't know what they do, but I do know they make shit really loud. So they could be a limiter. So we're going to use the tubes and see which one sounds better with it. All right, so there we have that. Now I think I'm gonna take the brick crusher away because it is kind of making that fizzy white noise come out of the bass that I kind of don't like. So I'm gonna take it away. And there we have it. So now what I'm gonna do is, honestly, I want the camel fat before the reverb, because if I put the camel fat after the reverb's gonna get distorted as well. So that's where that fuzzy noise came from, and so let's add it back on. And there we have it. Now, as you guys know, there's a fairly huge amount of increase in volume for this, so we gotta control it with a compressor. That's where the compressor comes in. It can be used to get certain things out. We can use it to make the reverb pop out more and still control audio modulation. So we're gonna use the waves reverb. Well, you know what? Let's use another compressor. The Native Instruments ones. We have the VC2A, which is the CLA, which is same as the CLA 2A from Waves, and they're based off their compressor. I forgot, but it's the 2A. I don't know if it's a universal audio or something, whatever. So we have this one, and then we can just load up the bass patch. We want to reduce the gain a bit and peak reduction, keep it at 50, just so it doesn't get too loud. So as you guys notice, this kind of controls it and keeps the levels down. So we got to kind of increase the gain there a bit. All right, guys, so you guys can see the top layer of the bass is hella fat. Now, one last thing we're going to do is just take away a frequency from the sub, from the kick. The kick is going to be very dominant in a certain frequency, so we got to find that frequency and then remove it lightly from the sub so they don't conflict as much. So use the spectrum to analyze it, and you guys can see it's right here, which is at 50.0 hertz, and that's going to be a G. So we're going to go into our sub and 50.0 hertz. We're going to do a notch there. This. Let me see if this can go lower. Our sub can go lower. So now, before we go, just a quick tip. I got asked about this, but I think one person, but I feel like it's something important to kind of tackle. Whenever you're kind of trying to figure out what levels all your sound should be, the guideline to use is the lower the frequency, the louder they need to be. So your kick's always going to be one of the loudest, followed by your bass, followed by, you know, your leads and so forth. And your hi-hats and your white noise should be around the lowest in your levels, because higher frequencies can be heard easier than lower frequencies at lower volumes. So that's why your bass and your kick need to be the loudest. And then if you put your leads down a tad more, they will still sound as loud as your bass, even though your bass is kind of put at a higher level. All right, guys, so that's going to be it for this one. So pretty much what we did today is just made our bass fat. And now we're ready to go on to move on to making our percussion and claps. So remember to vote on which sound to use. And also vote on whether you guys want a vocal drop or a different kind of drop. So if you want no vocal drop, just say no vocal. And if you do want a vocal drop, then say vocal.